In this video, we're going to be reviewing the FN 509. The FN 509 was newly released at the time of this video in early 2017. I'm going to be doing two-part reviews on this pistol. The first part will be this review and the second will be a follow-up because of the trigger, which I will get to in a moment. So what are some of the things that I like about the FN 509? The first thing that you'll notice when you have this pistol is the ergonomics. The ergonomics of the pistol are excellent. You're going to see multiple different serrations going on throughout the pistol as well as interchangeable back straps. And you'll also notice that it's ambidextrous as well. So you have ambidextrous controls both on the magazine release as well as the slide release. So if you're a left-hand shooter, that should definitely appeal to you. But if you also fire and train ambidextrous, it does give you this added option. And the pistol just really feels nice in the hand. It's got a great firm control. Even with the ambidextrous, I'm right-handed with an average size hand. It even has a recess swell for the trigger finger that just makes it feel really natural. So great ergonomics, excellent job by FN, especially for the ambidextrous controls as well. The grips work great. I can use my gloves when I fire it. It's got a large enough well for the accompaniment of firing with my gloves on, so that makes it very effective for me. It also has a large enough grip where I can easily charge the pistol without having to worry about my hand going over. Even when I have gloves on, there's still plenty of room on this on the frame itself to be able to support that with an adequate recharge. It also comes with some steel luminescent sights. So unlike, for example, a lot of Glocks that you'll get with plastic sights that come standard, these are steel sights and they are luminescent, similar to what you would see, for example, on some H&K models. So it's kind of a combination between the white as well as the glow in the dark. But it is steel, and they're also a bit raised, you'll notice as well as raised 90 degrees in the rear, which is great if you're doing one-hand charging, for example, on a belt or any other types of surface. It easily supports that option as well. Now, what are some of the things I don't like about the pistol? Well, the first thing you're going to notice when you pick up the pistol is the same thing I noticed, which is the trigger. In fact, the trigger is gritty. When I first fired the trigger out of the box, I pulled it back and it just had a gritty take-up, a little bit more slack in, and then the break. This is no bueno as far as I'm concerned. I don't like a pistol, especially today in this market with a lot of other options out there, having a gritty trigger out of the box. Now, I've fired about 150 rounds through this pistol, and I have noticed that the grittiness is going away slightly, but it still has a little bit of that take-up before the break, which again, I don't like. And it's something that if this was not an FN pistol, when I purchased it and I tried out that trigger pull, I probably would not have bought this pistol, simply because of that reason alone. Another thing you're going to notice, whether this is an issue for you or not, is the slide release catch. It tends to be very stiff. And if you're used to, for example, doing quick slide releases with, for example, your one-hand slide release, for example, I have an extension on my Glock. It's very easy to drop the slide down with one hand, for example, on the Glock and many of the other options on the table, but it's very hard to do on the 509. I mean, you have to struggle with it just to get it down, and you almost need to charge the weapon as opposed to pushing down on this just to release the slide. So again, that's one issue that, again, if that's an issue for you and you're used to using one-handed slide releases, that could be a problem for you. As far as caliber, it's 9mm NATO, widely used worldwide, many different options out there. When you buy the pistol, it comes with 2 magazines in the box that you buy, as well as an interchangeable back strap. So you have the regular back strap as well as a more slender back strap option. I tend to go with the options that they come standard. It just feels right for my hand. I have an average size hand, but you do have 2 magazines when you buy this. And one of the things I often advise people when they buy pistols is if you're planning on shooting the pistol, plan on buying at least 6 magazines for the pistol. That way you have 3 ready loaded and 3 ready for practice at any one time. So at a minimum, I tell people to buy 6, which means you're going to end up investing in 4 more magazines for this pistol, which will cost you more money. This is a relatively newly released pistol, so the magazines are typically going to be more expensive now than what they will be in the future, but plan on making an additional investment if you want this pistol in buying additional magazines, and especially compared to the Glock Gen 4s. So when you buy the Glock Gen 4s now, they come with 3 standard magazines where you're only getting 2 with the FN model. As far as action and operation, it's a typical striker fired pistol, 1 action to pull and release to make safe. Again, a lot of pistols are coming out today, including all the options you see on the table, are striker fired. As far as ergonomics and weight, where does this compare, for example, to the other pistols? For example, on the 509, the empty weight is about 1.8 ounces. When you compare that, for example, to a Glock 17 that comes in at about 6.5 ounces, a Glock 19 which comes in at about 5.5 ounces, and then we'll use, for example, the VP9 that comes in at 1.7 ounces. So give or take an ounce or two, it's around the same type of weight. Now, as far as weight carried, it comes in at about 2.2 or 2 pounds, 2 ounces, fully loaded with a 17-round magazine. As far as other aspects of the pistol, it is a 4-inch barrel length. It has lands and groove rifling. You do have the 2 backstrap options, multiple serrations. When you look at the comparisons of what's out there today, it's almost like a hybrid between the Glock 17 and the Glock 19. For example, if you look at the Glock 19 overlaid, it's almost the same length slide and the same length barrel between the two. However, what you're going to notice is that the grips are longer on the FN than the 19. Now, if you overlay this with the Glock 17, you're going to notice that the grips are almost the same length, but the slide on the Glock 17 is just a tad bit longer. So it's almost like a mid-length pistol in between the Glock 17 and the Glock 19. Now, if you overlay this with the VP9, it's almost identical as far as the pistols are concerned. As far as holsters, with most new pistols that come out, new holsters tend to follow. It can take some time. If you need a temporary holster, you're going to buy one of these pistols, what I recommend is the Glock large size holster will work temporarily with this pistol. It actually fits in this holster, and it actually fits pretty well. So if you need a cheap option, the Glock large size frame holster will work. The one thing you will notice, however, is it will sometimes catch on the holster if you try to remove it, so just keep in mind of that. But other than that, it is a good viable holster option to use with the FN, at least temporarily until new holsters come out. As far as disassembly, standard flip lever disassembly. Go down, pull the trigger. Of course, it might be easier if I could do this right. There we go. And again, if you look at the insides of the pistol, very standard. In fact, it looks very Glock-like, right? You've got your 4 major components. You've got your frame, your double recessed spring, your barrel, as well as your slide. And again, many of these components will look very familiar to you if you're used to striker fires and Glocks in this case. And to just reassemble, you just lock it back, flip the light forward, and you're ready to go. Very easy to clean, very easy to disassemble, very Glock-like. Now, as far as accuracy, one of the things I wanted to point out about the sights are 2 things. One is it uses a large front dot sight. And when you fire correctly, especially when you're training right, you're focusing on the front sight. The front dot is great for short range shooting, but many would argue that they want smaller dots in the front if they want to get more accuracy in target shooting, and that can impede your accuracy to some degree. Another thing you're going to notice is when I fired the FN, I was not able to get direct bullseye shots with a 6 o'clock hold. So a 6 o'clock hold, for example, means holding the front sight at the base of the bullseye. In this case, I almost had to paint completely over, which means I had to have a bullseye hold, or literally having the front dot almost completely over the front bullseye in order to be able to get rounds into the center. So one of the things you're going to notice first off is if you're used to shooting a 6 o'clock hold, you are going to be shooting low typically with these sights. So you're going to need to adjust for that and work from that perspective. Now, as far as how does accuracy look and how does it compare to other models that are out there today? So here are some of the groups that I've fired the FN 509. So the first group is at 30 feet, and the second group is at 50 feet. So it opens up just slightly more at 50 feet. Taking this out to 70 feet, you can see it started opening up, and then at 20 feet one-handed, I fired this type of grip. Now you might be asking yourself, well, how does this compare, for example, to other pistols that are out there? Now, one of the challenges I have with the VP9 as far as accuracy concerned, or not the VP9, but the FN as far as accuracy is concerned, is not only the size of the front dot, but also the trigger. The trigger is creepy, as I indicated before, which impedes some of the accuracy that I'm able to get out of the pistol. And to give you an example of what that would compare to, I will compare that, for example, to the Walther PPQ. And when I shot similar groups at 30 as well as 50 feet, you can see that the tighter groups came out of the Walther PPQ than came out of the FN 509. And in addition to having an excellent trigger on the PPQ, you'll also notice that the front sight is also much smaller, the dot as well. Again, that can aid in accuracy when you're firing. Now, you might also wonder, how does that compare, for example, to what kind of accuracy you can get out of a Glock? So in this case, we're going to go with the 30-foot comparisons compared to the Glock 17 as well as the Glock 19. Again, not that much difference, not that much separation between the two. So taking that out, for example, to 50 feet, where we have this group right here with the FN compared to the Glock 17 and Glock 19. Again, not that much separation as far as accuracy is concerned. However, when I take these shots out farther, to 70 feet, that's where I start seeing some differences, especially between the Glock 17 and what I'm able to get with the FN at 70 feet. And again, I'm able to get greater accuracy with the Glock 17 at 70 feet than I am the FN 509. So, in comparison to the other pistols that I've fired on the table and are used to shooting, the FN is roughly about as accurate within 50 feet in, but beyond that, I tend to find that the accuracy wanes a little bit, and I think that has a lot to do both with the front sight and, more importantly, with the actual trigger. As far as alternatives that are in the market today, I've already alluded to a lot of them. Many of the Glocks, including the Glock 17 and Glock 19, would be similar comparisons. Again, this fits almost right in between them as far as overall size. There's also other striker fires on the market, the VP9s, the PPQs, other types of market pistols that are out there. As far as utility, excellent for home defense, target shooting, even potentially combat. I haven't seen any stress tests or talked to anybody that's actually taken through them yet, but it's an FN, so we'll be curious to see over time how well this stacks up to other types of stress tests that they put those through. So overall, it is a high quality pistol. It's an FN. An FN is known for making high quality barrels, high quality pistols. You'll even see that, for example, in this pistol with the, you'll see a slight bulging on the barrel here to improve the accuracy as well, the lockup to the slide. So FN does a lot of really nice things to create a high quality pistol. It has great ambidextrous ergonomics. It just really is. If you fire this pistol and hold it in your hand, you're going to really like how it feels and how it handles for you. Some of the drawbacks are right now, it's got a poor trigger. It's just not the type of trigger, not the type of quality of a trigger that I would have expected coming out of FN into a pistol like this. Now, over time, I'm going to be doing a part 2 as I fire a lot more rounds through the pistol to see if this trigger actually improves. I've had some pistols over time where the more I fired them, the triggers actually got better. That might be the case with the FN, but it's too early to tell at this point. I'm not a big fan of the trigger as it stands right now, especially when it comes from an accuracy perspective. If that's not that big of an issue for you, then it won't obviously affect your opinion of the pistol. It is relatively affordable. It is a nice size. It fits right in between the 17 and the 19. And overall, it is a great pistol. Is it worth the money for what is currently offered for today? I think so. I think it's an excellent pistol. Down the road, we're going to see other types of results as far as how well is it doing stress, how well will the trigger improve, and of course there will be aftermarket improvements as well as perhaps even trigger upgrades to the 509. So overall, I'm happy with the pistol. There will be a part 2 simply because I need to keep track of the trigger and see what kind of improvements I see over time with that, and I will be reporting that on this channel. If you like this review or you like the channel, please like us on YouTube, and thanks for watching.